Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Friday Live. My name is Ashley Hay. I'm a mixed media artist, and I'm going to be sharing with you today about how you can actually duplicate your artwork and then manipulate it and play around with it so that you don't have to worry about redrawing it again, and you can really play with mixed media. So we're going to have a bit of fun, and I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that you really enjoy the session. So just before we begin, I thought I'd tell you about a few new things that we have actually put out this week. We've been quite busy, and so this week you've seen What is Powerprint go up. So if you haven't seen that, it is a really good little explainer video, and we're going to be doing a series of these on the various Powertex products. So What is Powerprint tells you everything that you need to know to get started with it. And of course, I'm going to be talking about using Powerprint to duplicate your artworks today. As well as that, we've also released a new little art tutorial on how to transfer your photos to Canvas. So if you love the idea of transferring your artworks and playing around with them like I show you today, then you could watch those videos and they'll be super helpful for you. And then if you actually love mixed media, playing around, you want to learn more, you want to dive deep, we have of course got the new online workshop on Ashley Hay Art Academy, where you can learn how to transfer photos and also work with mixed media. So as well as that, of course, you've got your trainers around Australia, suppliers around Australia where you can get Powerprint from, and all your other beautiful Powertex art supplies, and ask a local trainer near you maybe to run a Powerprint workshop where you can work with Powerprint and mixed media. Alrighty, so today, of course, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at how you can actually duplicate your artworks, and so that you don't have to worry about redrawing them, and you can play to your heart's content. It doesn't matter if you ruin it, so you can play, and then if you need to, you can always just transfer it again and get started again. So this that I've got in front of me here is actually an oil painted portrait that I did. So it was a little bit of a sketchy one, this one. So you can see that the actual portrait itself is quite lightly painted, but I really like it. I like the colours, I like the softness of it. And so I thought, this is a perfect piece to have a play around with, because I could actually add more colour into it. So I can transfer the photo and then I can actually play with paint and colour on top of it. But today, of course, we're going to go crazy with mixed media. So here I've already transferred the image across. The board is a little bit buckled, but by the time I have done the mixed media, it's not going to matter. I'm quite excited about it. So if you're here, please let me know. I love to see who's on with me, and thank you for watching and coming on board, and I hope that this inspires you to create this weekend, because of course that's what I'm here for, is to inspire you to be bit of arty creative play this weekend and get yourself going. So here we have it. So I've already done the photo transfer, and but just before we go there, I wanted to talk a little bit about possibilities, because of course you don't just have to do a straight image transfer. What I could do is I could actually have a pre-painted board instead of transferring it onto the ivory Powertex, and then the colours of the pre-painting would actually through the image transfer. So if we have a look at this one, I'll just hold it up to the camera there a little bit so that you can see it. You can actually see that it was a black and white photo that was transferred onto a coloured board, and where the photograph was white, it has actually, there was no ink, so it transfers onto the colour, and you see the colour coming through from underneath. So this, of course, will only work if you use light coloured paint. If you do dark coloured paint, you're not going to see anything. So it does create a little bit of a ghost image. So you imagine if I had a coloured photograph of an artwork underneath, and then I put some ghost images on top, maybe transferring some other drawings or something, I can actually play around with layering my artwork as well, which is super fun and super cool. Alrighty, so let's begin. So today I just thought I would mess around and really just show you that you don't have to be careful with this, because of course you can play to your heart's content, and if you don't like it, you can just redo it. So, and then of course paint over everything and call it a reworked piece. So I'm going to just throw some things onto this. We're going to be a little bit playful, just be expressive and intuitive, and make some creative decisions along the way, and we'll just see how it turns out. So that's the plan. So I've got a bit of easy 3D flex here. I've got a bit of stone art. So I've got some 3D sand in a little cup. I've got some stone art that I've already put out in a little cup, some 3D flex, and this is just regular sand. So I've got a whole plethora of play bits to have a bit of a play with. So I'll pop those over here, and let's go. So what I thought I'd do to start with, I've got some pit charcoal, and I just thought I'd play directly onto the piece with some charcoal. And of course the charcoal is going to actually blend with the Powertex as well. So if I don't want it to do that, then I have got some Fixative. So let's just, I might put a little bit of a, got a damp cloth here. So remember that one of the things that I like to do is I like to have I don't think I've done that very straight. It's a bit hard to tell the way I'm working here on the camera, but let's just knock a little bit of darkness back into there. One of the things that I like to do after I've done the image transfer is I like to seal it with a little bit of Easy Coat Glossy, which means that I can do what I'm doing here, where I can actually wipe, you know, whatever I add back a little bit, so that it's reaching across to the top here. And so I'm not particularly loving this big sweepy mark here, so we'll just get rid of some of that. So it won't wash away completely, but I can cover that with a little bit of mixed media. I might come more in like that, as if it's a bit of her shoulder. There we go. It's really smudgy now because it's got water on it. And all right. Bit of fun. Now, if I wanted to, I can actually, you know, just keep going with a bit of charcoal, but I'm going to take a lot of mixed media, so you probably aren't even going to see a lot of this charcoal. And of course, you want to ignore the edges of your photograph a little bit too. Like, you don't want to emphasize the fact that it actually is a photo transfer, and you can work a lot of your mixed media into the actual photograph itself as well. I might darken. All right. So that's quite nice, a little bit darker up here. So what this does is it enables me to actually see, if I take it dark up there, how that's actually going to look. And so if I want to, I can just leave some of this charcoal coming through, or I can actually just go over the top of it as I'm working with the mixed media. I'm just going to take off this edgy bit here, and I'll just darken a little bit like that. All right, I'm not loving this side, but that's okay. Just very, very early days. All right, so nice, fun and games. All right, so if I take the wet Powertex into this now, it's going to really mess with the charcoal. So I'm going to do a little bit of that where I take some ivory Powertex just in so that you can see how it will actually pick up the charcoal. So I'm going to get some nice greys. So see how that charcoal is brushing into the Powertex. So I'll just have a bit of a play with a mid-tone grey down here. So what is important for me is the direction of my brush strokes. So I kind of want to make sure that I'm flowing with the piece a little bit. Going to knock that edge off of there. And this is also giving me a bit more of a sealed surface to work my mixed media onto, and of course I'm using the brush, so I'm happy. Someone's just saying, you make everything look so easy. Well, you know, just have some playful fun and, you know, splash things on and just give yourself permission to play. Doesn't matter if it works out. You know, you can just muck around and just enjoy yourself. Give yourself permission to just play. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm giving myself permission to play. It doesn't matter how it turns out. I know I'm on camera, but you know, everything doesn't have to turn out perfectly perfect. And I think it's really good for you guys to see that, you know, a lot of it is about giving yourself permission to have that freedom and of expression, and just that real permission to just play around. Okay, so see how I'm losing the edge of that photograph there? That's what I like to do. I don't like it to look like a photo transfer or an image that I've just, you know, kind of stuck into the space. I want it to really be integrated with whatever it is that I'm doing. So I want to lose those edges and have things feel like they're all part of the that they're meant to be. Now, of course, I have taken this quite dark over in this side. I'm going to I quite like this washy charcoal colour here. I probably shouldn't be going on there too much with the ivory, so we won't do that too much. Can always take it back to the darker colour. Might just take that off. What have you guys got planned for this weekend? So in the studio here, I've got lots happening this weekend. So tomorrow on Saturday, I'm actually doing a free resin demonstration that I do from time to time for people so that you guys can come along and see if you would like to finish your artwork with resin, how to actually do that. So I do it as a free demo for my clients from time to time. So I've got one of those tomorrow at 2:30. If you're in Perth, then you might like to join us in the studio in Safety Bay. But if you could please register so that I know the numbers that are coming so I can make sure I'm organised for everyone, that would be perfect. So that's tomorrow. And then on Sunday, I've got the first of my new workshop series, Layered Landscapes. So I am feeling a little bit excited about that. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to working with the people that have registered. Now, I have had a couple of cancellations, so if you would like to come along, then you just simply maybe private message me and let me know, and I can send you the link to join us. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's the first one in a series of 3 workshops called Layered Landscapes. So we're doing River Run focus this weekend, and as I say, so I've gone over her hair there, never mind, getting carried away. If you are in Perth and you'd like to join, like I say, there are still a couple of spots, and it'd be fantastic to see you there. All right, so that's just a bit of Powertex and charcoal. Now, let's say I'm finished with the charcoal, which of course, I could just keep painting back into that. I'm really liking these greys, and of course I can paint back into, I've got a dirty brush now, and I'm usually pretty good at washing my brush in between, but I'm a bit hopeless when I'm doing demos. But, you can see how you can really mess around with that medium. I will wash my brush because I want that little piece to be a nice clean colour there. And currently it's just a very dirty bit of charcoal-y painted surface. So I'm just going to get my brush in. Now, let's say I do want to take her hair back in there. I can actually just come back into that photo transfer and grab that out. But of course, I can also paint back into it if I want. I can get my cloth, I can, rub that back there, and there it is back again. Get that, rid of that hard charcoal line that was there. That's kind of nice. And then I can lose that strong edge just by feathering that brush in there. So in the layered landscapes, I'm actually going to be doing a bit of mix of painting and working with Powertex. So it's going to be a little bit of a mix of things. So, and it will also involve some critique and helping you with your ongoing artworks. So, yeah, like I say, I'm quite excited. So that's my weekend. So let me know what you're doing this weekend. What creative things are you up to? What are you playing with in the studio? What are you inspired to do? All right, so I could play with that all day long because put a brush in my hand and I'm in my little happy place. But I won't do any more with that, even though I want to just keep fiddling away. And I'll just move on to a little bit of work with some sand and some bistre. Now, what I would ordinarily do is I would allow that to dry off a little bit and I would spray the charcoal with fixative so that it's not actually going to move. See, I told you, brush in my hand, I'm still going. Who invited me to the arty party? All right, so you can play. The great thing is that you can play with any art mediums and Powertex. So anything that is water-based, you can use with your Powertex. So you can really play around. So Natalie's just dropped in and she's saying she's having a fairy workshop on Saturday and that she's setting up for that while she's watching. So if you are in Queensland, and you want to get out to Uringapilly to join Natalie for that workshop. Her workshops are fabulous and she is there at Bag End Studios in the new venue. So very exciting and I look forward to seeing what the ladies make, Natalie. It'll be a wonderful time, I'm sure. And so just while we're there and we've got Natalie on, of course, Natalie was meant to be on with me this week. Well, there's been so much rain in Queensland and, you know, our studios are actually in places with a tin roof. And so yesterday it was hammering down and we decided that we would, you know, that we would leave it till another week and when it's not pouring and so wet in Queensland. So Natalie's just saying, yes, hopefully no rain tomorrow. Natalie, I know the weather is meant to be fining up there and I'm sure it will be a wonderful day. So hope you have a fabulous time. And of course, I'm really, really looking forward to catching up with you and seeing your wonderful artwork that you've been doing. And Natalie has actually got some exciting news that I'm sure she'll be announcing. So she's going to be working as the artist in residence at Uringapilly for the next few weeks. And I think she said until the end of June. Is that right, Natalie? So drop us a comment in the comments and let everyone know what you're up to because I'm sure they'll be excited to hear. Okay, cracking on. Now that I've got some of that, like I say, ordinarily I would actually let that little layer dry, but I'm just going to add some, what have I got here? I've got some 3D sand, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of a sprinkle of that into there. And what it's going to do is the 3D sand actually dries really, really fast. So if you want a layer, just going to pop a bit more on there because it's quite wet there. If you want to layer your artwork, actually working with the 3D sand dries really, really quickly. So you can actually work back into it a lot faster. The other thing that it does is it makes it quite gritty. So you can actually scratch back into it, gives it a really beautiful textured surface. So what I'm working on is I'm working on a cradled board. So I find these boards really good because they're wood and so they're nice and firm. So I can actually put pressure on it and it doesn't matter. So there's still a little bit of loose stuff there. So I'm just flicking it over into this corner here and I'm just rubbing it onto that wet Powertex. So what it's kind of doing is it's buffing up, it's giving the Powertex a little bit of a gritty, like I say, surface, which is a bit of fun. I'm going to pop it on this wet bit up here as well. And then I can keep working without, without sticking to everything and pulling bits off. Roll up my sleeves, getting into it. Okay, there we go. So you can see now I can actually pop my hands on that, and it's not too wet at all. It's still a little bit wet down here, sticking down here a little bit. But there's already some lovely texture happening on here. And that's just with a very, very fine layer like you've seen. Now, if I then want to go a little bit further with that and I want a bit more texture, I can use my palette knife and I can get a bit of ivory or any colour that I like really. I'm going to get a little bit of original Bista as well because she's got that lovely soft colour in. The perfect colour to use with her would actually be bronze and ivory, because you get beautiful sort of taupey colours when you work with the bronze. But look at that beautiful soft colour that I've got there. So it's quite brown compared to, she's a little bit yellowy, but it's probably quite nice up here. See how that's sort of matching that pinky tone in there. So I can play with adding different coloured Bistas to the Powertex. Some of the liquid powers even could be added in. Got a little bit of, not sure, haven't used it for a while. The nozzle might be, oh no, there we go. A little bit of yellow. So I can get that sort of yellowy tinge if I want. Just need a little bit more. So these new liquid powers are fabulous. There's really some beautiful vibrant colours in those. So see how I can almost match that colour. So you'll probably see it better if I use my brush. Look at me making a beautiful mess. So see how that colour almost matches completely. Now, what you do need to remember is that the Powertex is going to dry slightly darker than it actually goes down. So you do need to know that. But of course, when it's this beautiful, lovely liquid that I've got here, I can actually also put some of the 3D sand into this and make it more gritty. So you don't want to do more than about 50-50 sand and Powertex, because otherwise it kind of splits and separates. So you want to make sure that you've got enough Powertex to actually really stick it together and hold it firm. The sand is really lovely to use. I remember when I first got it, I got it in for some clients and everyone was saying, oh, I really want to try that new stuff, you know, the 3D sand and balls. And I went, well, why? You know, we've got sand. We've got plenty of sand in the environment. We can just pick it up and play with it to our heart's content. But this is actually quite different. It's quite like a pumice, and so it gets a really beautiful texture, and it's not really totally gritty at all. And the nice thing is that you can see what I'm doing here, where you can actually get really some beautiful textured marks with it. And the other thing that is really nice is to then, you know, draw and scratch back into that. So that's a 3D sand and the Powertex. All right, so if I wanted to, of course, I can just keep adding more and adding more bits. So let's put a little bit of the bronze Powertex in with the ivory, and you'll see what I mean about that beautiful taupey colour. So Natalie's just saying, yes, she's artist in residence at Yirringapilly until the end of June. So if you are in Queensland and you're near Yirringapilly, you'll have to drop into the cultural centre there and pop down the alleyway and go and say hello to Natalie. Her studio looks amazing. So, and there's lots and lots of beautiful artwork in there done with Powertex and with other art supplies as well. That is definitely worth a look. I'm looking forward to getting over there at some stage, Natalie, and coming to have a look. So if you haven't seen what Natalie's doing over there, she did do a live not so long ago where she actually was showing some of the things that she has actually done. So see this beautiful taupey colour? That's quite like the colour I've got on that original painting. I don't know, I don't want to get... I've already got black marks on it, look at that. But see how it's got that sort of pinky taupey colour? So it's quite lovely. And there's no reason why I have to stick to, you know, the colours that are already in the piece. I can go quite abstract with it. I can take some more colour into these areas and I can just really play around. Make it a bit darker over that side there. And so any of the Powertex Ultimate Medium, any of the colours in that, they all intermix. And so you can actually intermix all of those and play around with mixing the colours into them as well. I can take the bronze, the ivory and a bit of Vista in. So you can really play to your heart's content. And then, of course, I can take some sand or I can even take, let's throw a little bit of Easy 3D Flex in the mix and make up a little bit more of a textured mix here. Just use all of that Powertex. Got a tiny little bit of water. Oops. The Vista, of course, has some water in it, so I've put a lot of water in that, but never mind. So what you'll find, putting a little bit of water in there will actually give it finer cracks. Oh, that's the sand. Never mind, that'll be interesting. So what I tend to find is if I put the sand in, it doesn't crack as much. So just experiment, play around. Don't be afraid to try different things. So you can see I'm just throwing some different things in here, and the more I layer and play, the more interesting things become. And you'll make so many discoveries. Now, even if I don't like that colour, that's okay, because I can actually spray it with Vista. So it's looking a bit of an icky colour. Not loving it too much, but I'm going to pop a little bit of Vista on that to darken it all down. And I'm just going to use all of that on that side there because I can. Natalie's just saying, yeah, no cracks now. You crack me up, Natalie. Definitely. So putting the sand in will stop the cracks, so we'll see what happens. But yes, I suspect I won't be having any little cracks in this lovely mix that I've got happening here. Now you can see I've done that quite smoothly, so I'm doing that deliberately because if it does crack, just the cracking will be enough. I'm also getting a smaller palette knife here so that I can work in closer to that edge, and I want to actually get that so that it's filling some of those. So I am paying attention to the direction of the marks that I'm making as I'm putting the marks down, and that is really, really, really key. So you're not just putting the texture and colour everywhere, you're actually thinking about the direction of the strokes, the light, the dark, how you want it to actually appear. And I'm just going to use all of this up, and I'm going to use it straight in to the photograph here. There's her hair there. And I quite like having lost edges in things too. So you don't always have to have, see how I'm allowing that edge there to disappear into that background area. So even this is a little bit too much. So we'll just give it a bit more of a lost edge there. And I'm going to take this right in here. Best tool in the house is your finger. If I wanted to, I can take a little bit of water on my finger too if I want to do that. And of course I can get my damp cloth as well and just tidy up that little bit there if I want it to be a little bit thinner where it goes onto the photograph. So that's actually feeling really nice because it's got a little bit of that sand in it, so it's got that little bit of grittiness. Now I've got some on her face there. I definitely don't want that to stay there. So if I wanted to, I could actually put more sand onto that mix. And away we go. So lovely to play with, so many possibilities in terms of layering. Now I'm going to show you spraying the bistre onto this. So the bistre is going to adhere to the wet Powertex as well. It may help the cracking because it's got water in it too, but as I say, it's got the sand in there, so chances are it's not going to crack too much at all. But the bistre I can wipe back off from the photograph. So the bistre is actually a patina paint, and so it's not going to be fixed until you fix it onto your artwork. So I'm going to change the colour of this pink colour to a much nicer colour with the original bistre, if it sprays. So I love the bistre. I'm sure there's people out there going, yes, Ashley loves bistre. So I do tend to get a little bit heavy-handed as soon as I put bistre in my hands. But I do really, it's one of my favourite things to play with. And you can see how it's just taken the tone of like those colours that are actually happening in there are just really, really gorgeous. And so even over this other side where I've actually, I put down some light texture, I'm going to spray on it anyway, because I can always take some more light back into that. I can dry brush it back into it with lighter colours. So see that beautiful texture that is actually on here. So that was just the sand and the Powertex in there. And you can see how that bistre is just falling into the textures, and then that will enable you to highlight it again. So give yourself permission to play. So this weekend, just pull your bits out. I can mix everything together so long as I've got enough Powertex to bind things properly. That's what you want to make sure of. But even if you do something that you love and you find that maybe the charcoal dust or maybe a bit of, you've used too much sand or whatever in the actual mix, then, and you're finding it comes away, then the perfect thing is that your Powertex Ultimate Medium is also going to act like a glue as well. So you can just use it as an adhesive to stick any bits that do come loose back down again. And of course, when you finishing varnish your artwork, and you've worked on the whole piece overall, you're going to find that it just, you know, comes up beautifully. So have fun with Powertex. I love it. I know you're going to love it too when you start playing with it. There are so many possibilities. I really look forward to having those people that are coming to the studio come to play this weekend. I've got something interesting happening here. I think it's just a thicker layer of texture that's going on there. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to having people in my studio this weekend working with me there. It's always fun to be around that creative energy. So paintbrush and bistre in Ashley heaven. Yes, Nat, I am definitely in heaven. I do love to get me a brush in hand, a palette knife, and a few playful art materials. So have some creative play this weekend. Give yourself permission to just enjoy it and get into manipulating your artworks using a photo transfer and then actually playing back into those artworks. So as I said, I can actually take colour back into my piece here. If I wanted to, I could paint back into it with more oil paint or whatever I desired. So that's the other beauty of the Powertex, is after all the Powertex is dried, I can actually still paint back into it with an oil-based medium as well. So like oil paint, or I can put some elements of resin on it too. Okay, everyone, if you would like to learn more about Powertex, of course, find a trainer near you or a supplier near you. So some of the suppliers around the place are, of course, Bag End Studio. We've got a new supplier down in New South Wales, which is Tin Cat Alley Studio, Art Studio, and of course Amanda's of Mogo, Stamper's Hut. There's a few suppliers around the place, House of Adorn in Melbourne. Yeah, so find someone near you and get your hands on some Powertex and have a play this weekend. Happy creating, everyone, and I will see you again for some more creative play. I think Renee is joining us again next week with more on an update on her birdhouse and how she's gone with that and where she's up to with it. So I know some of you were going to play along with that. So you might like to pull those out this weekend and have a creative play with some of the things I've showed you today. Have fun, everyone. Enjoy, and Natalie's just saying she's looking forward to seeing all the layered landscapes next week. Absolutely. I'm quite excited too, Nat. So happy creating. Bye, everyone.